I keep forgetting to debut my headset. I got a really nice headset for Christmas. That is going to come. But this week we were going to keep things high and tight and be more efficient anyways. So I'll save all the bells and whistles for next week's lineup builder show. Please join us for those as well. I actually like what we did this week, though, in terms of taking our core three and putting them into a lineup and then having the rest of us draft around it. I thought that worked out very well. And it actually led for some unique builds, but also a lot of common things. Like we did a lot of the same stuff, but in very different ways. I thought it was an interesting way to build. This lineup was Donnie's core and then had our pieces around it. I kind of feel bad about this lineup because the core of this lineup, Donnie's core actually hit. We just built terribly around it.
There was the receivers both snowflaked, so I wouldn't say hit. But
I was about to say, like, the only pieces from melee you really needed were Kyron and the defense.
Oh, that's right, because I forgot. Now I'm going to get mixed up with some other lineups I had because I forgot Kyron was not in this lineup. He was in a lineup that we cashed, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now, the important part, I think, for the divisional round for this lineup is, do you think Puka is hurt? Because that might be why he didn't get there in this lineup.
No, I think Minnesota's defense is like decent enough.
They didn't need to pass.
Like Kyron was able to run the ball, so Minnesota never was able to get into a form to pass rush and force in a passing game. So Kupp and Puka weren't really necessary. Like all day, it was just check down to the tight end, hand it off to Kyron.
I mean, but Puka got his normal work. He got 9 targets. I mean,
yeah. It's not like Puka may have underperformed with 9 targets, but like he still got the number 1 receiver target.
And he got a rush attempt.
Yeah, I guess I just mixed it up because we did so many variations. Like we were on a lot of the same games. We had the Kyron lineup, like I said. We'll show you it later. That came in Gov's core. So what do you think failed this lineup? If we were going to go back and look, because that's why I like doing it this way, because I thought we were almost competing against each other in a way.
I mean. We brought this up before the show. I had the same core to start with. Like I played Stafford, McLaughlin, Puka, Kupp, and Hawkinson. I cashed.
You have up here,
yeah. I cashed. This won me $2. It scored 151 somehow. I don't know how.
Rams defense went off.
It's the same thing.
Was the highest score on the slate, and Henry was number 2.
Like
you just happened to hit on the 2 highest scores of the slate. And it was a small 6-gamer across the weekend.
That was exactly my takeaway too. It was the defense, and it wasn't to say like, "Oh,
this was just a core with the literal nuts around it." Yeah. Like I don't even know how else to say it. Like this was the literal nuts you could have put around your core at the end of the week, and it cashed you. Like there's nothing against it. You min cashed.
$2. I did better than min cash.
A little more min cash, yeah. So you hit the full 2x.
Donnie's
like your core and what you put around it was a very solid lineup, and it does go to show you. Like when we drafted around your core, me and Logan didn't get to the same pieces and didn't put them around it. You put the fucking nuts around it. Had your core been slightly better or different with those same other dudes, like if you'd have turned the Stafford double and McLaughlin into, I'm trying to think what was.
Well, just change Puka and McLaughlin to any other 4,900 receiver, pretty much, and go to Kyron instead of Puka, and it would have just been much better.
Even if you wanted to,
yeah, that's true. Like if you just switch Puka and McLaughlin to Kyron and a different, cheaper receiver, a Bateman,
like Amari Cooper, like Bateman would have been. But even if it goes down to Amari Cooper, like that's still more points from my 4,900 guy.
Yeah, I feel bad about getting us on McLaughlin. The one transparent thing I'll say about that is I played it in a lot of personals too.
It had decent ownership. But I think Batty.
I have the same thing. I played a lot of Bucky. Bucky did not hit for us either.
Mm-hmm. But see, that's why I appreciate this show the most, is because we'll be honest about what worked and what didn't, and why. Like I got to be honest, it didn't work, but I did play it in my personal. It wasn't like something I gave out just to be kind of fun or cute about it. It just didn't work.
Batty came in what? He decided he was ruled in a couple hours before the game, and he did get snaps. Not a bunch, but it ate into snaps. But Williams had 74% of the snaps as the running. That he has not had 74% all year. He was out-snapped in a Week 18 game.
I think that was somewhat predictable with Kyren was because Blake Corum got injured. And he'd already seen a heavy workload. And so you got to assume without Blake Corum, who they invested in, they were going to lean heavy on Williams.
But see, Logan, that's the thing. Blake Corum, it doesn't even matter to me because he really doesn't get snaps anyway.
I was about to say, even if he were fully healthy and active, I would have not worried about him one bit. I was still assumed Kyren would have got the same workload he got.
In fact,
because that's just what McVay does.
Yeah, wild card weekend, he actually got less snaps than a meaningful Week 17. So it's just they would have had him out on the field every single snap pretty much if they needed him.
Which is even if you wanted to be a plus Kyren guy, that is the plus of Kyren is the volume. There are arguments whether Kyren is actually, a superstar, if he's actually that level of running back, or if it's just the McVay style where he's going to run his running backs into the wall.
Now, what does concern me is Cooper Kupp only played half the snaps last week. And maybe it's just, hey, it was a blowout. We're going to save the guy till next week, but
could be. That's kind of what I thought.
55% of the snaps is not promising.
It's not great, but they already had the skill with Puka. They were up good at that point. They had lost Tyler Higbee. They don't know if they're going to get Higbee back. He's going to try to play. So this could just be precautionary. We already know that Cooper is the older receiver. We already had Puka come off the field with a knee injury. We're not going to risk it. I don't know.
They definitely preserved Kyren at the end. They did not want Kyren to finish that game.
True.
So maybe it's just a health thing, and they're trying to keep Kupp ready, but I'm a little concerned about that.
I mean, that's definitely a plus EV way to look at it because me and you are Cooper Kupp fans. We are biased in that way, and I'm okay saying that. That's how I'm perceiving to look at it. But like you say, if we see signs that it isn't that way, we should adjust, even though we are fans of them. So this was my core. Very similar. We kind of stayed away from the worst play, which was Justin Herbert. I mean, we did not have build a core with that. I thought about it. It just didn't make sense for me because I didn't like the receiving options. That was another zero that we won't get to, but QJ let down a lot of people. He was 15% owned and got 0 points. So
yeah, but QJ was the pivot because you saw McConkey was 23, 25% owned.
Right.
So a lot of people were just playing him, and he just absolutely smashed.
Right.
It's funny how nothing else on the Chargers hit, but McConkey was actually the best guy of the weekend.
It's almost like when a guy who gets 10 targets a week is the only receiver in the most meaningful game of the year for the team, he's going to be used. Justin Jefferson. But
it reminded me of the early days of DFS with Kelvin Johnson, where he would play with these bad quarterbacks, whether it be Dan Orlovsky or John Kitna, and he would still get there just based on the volume. That's what the Ladd McConkey game reminded me of. For some reason, Justin didn't look comfortable.
That interior line.
The Chargers were a year away anyway. I think they overachieved.
They overachieved.
I thought Harbaugh would come in and get him 10 wins, 11, maybe 11 at the best. But I wasn't expecting him to be that high of a playoff team wild card.
Yeah. I had them making the playoffs. I thought they would win a playoff game actually after watching them. They didn't.
Yeah, I figured I actually thought they would beat Houston.
I had it that way, and I had them as a dark horse in the during the season.
I thought they could give Kansas City a decent run in the second round if they got there. I was high on this team, but the interior line got exposed, and when your game plan is very run centric and your run game doesn't work, and you have receivers like Quentin Johnson who will drop every pass thrown to them, literally drop it every time. Yeah. You just need a little bit more talent in the building.
It's not an excuse either to say they were the Cinderella story. The Chargers were still a success story. They should still be celebrated. Justin Herbert was one of the most efficient quarterbacks during the season. However, when you're one of the more talented, faces of the franchise, when you are the marquee guy, when you are Justin Herbert going against Patrick Mahomes, and they build that, marquee, when you fail, you have to eat it too. Like, I'm not ready to say that he's a bust in the league and he's a failure. His career actually reminds me a lot of Matthew Stafford. I think he'll end up going somewhere else and having a late, career kind of resurgence with someone else, and then we'll look back at it and be like, well, he was probably more exciting. He was probably more talented back with the Chargers, but he did it with someone else. I think that's how.
I mean, this roster's not quite in Harbaugh's vision yet. I'll wait to see when Harbaugh gets another offseason to really form the roster how he wants it.
Yeah.
Get him a draft class. Get him some guys he actually needs. Like, they were an offensive lineman and probably another good receiver anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were not a real contender, but it was a good step. It's a stepping stone for the young guys that are there.
I thought, I'll be honest, when I submitted the lineups and it was like finally time to start playing, and I was excited and burned off some energy, this was the lineup that I'm like, I didn't like it. I'm like, I wish, like, of all the lineups that we built, this almost like this is the one I wish we could have rebuilt. I think we made a lot of mistakes in this lineup. And I think the number of snowflakes kind of reflects that.
Yeah. Can you show me what Vele had for targets? I didn't even I know I saw a couple.
I know he had one where he almost got concussed. It was like a near mid.
Yeah, like
concussion. It was bad.
Yeah, so two. It was in that you're right. That deep shot down the field, and that was Bo Nix's fault. Bo Nix just missed him. He was open. He just needs to, put your receiver in a little better position. But not the
rookie
point
quarterback
here.
Didn't quite do it right.
I will say,
I'm very impressed with Bo Nix in general, but
that's a perfect Justin Herbert-like comparison this season, where it's like they were both Cinderella stories. Exceeded expectations, made their team better, like did everything from a role model standpoint you would think, and then just failed in big leverage moments where it's easy now to be like, oh, that was predictable. But I thought they both had good seasons.
There was no shame for the Broncos in losing to the 2 seed Bills. There's, it happens.
No. Their season ended fine. They did they probably could have kept up better maybe, but you're right. There was no shame losing to Buffalo in Buffalo when you bounce back after the season you had last year. And
you had a lead in Buffalo.
Laughing stock, giving up 70 points to the Dolphins.
Which I think is a great compliment to Daniels to get back to this lineup. Is the fact that Daniels was able to win as a rookie, the problem is now is if he goes out and loses to the Lions, people will have that kind of narrative, which really isn't fair. The playoffs, I think, should be its own season. We should really celebrate the guys who even make it, even the Steelers who didn't look good against the Ravens, they deserve to be a different tier than the regular season teams that didn't make it, to me anyways. But like I said, I was just disappointed with this lineup. I thought we had way too many snowflakes. Maybe my core was bad. It just didn't make sense. I know my core was Daniels and Dallas Goedert, but maybe I put you guys in a difficult price range.
Daniels, Goddard, and McLaughlin.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of money there. I mean, I cashed in my Daniels lineup as well.
This was close.
Yeah. Cup is a bad play. Vele is a bad play. That's 2 just definitively bad plays for me.
Yeah, take it a 0. If Vele is almost anyone else, you can get close. Ramsey works good. Cup, Cup didn't work out. Puka didn't work out. It was Kyron. It's usually one of the 3.
You're the numbers nerd of all of us, Gov. I was totally
yeah.
You know this about me. I don't really pay attention to ownership during the season. Maybe I should during the playoffs because they're more condensed slates. But I was completely shocked with McMillan. I figured he was going to be owned 15%. He wasn't sneaky. But when that card turned over and it was 32%, I was baffled.
Yeah, no, he was one of the chalk guys. Everyone wanted to play McMillan over Evans.
No, but I get chalk, sunshine, chalk, buy it for the kids, have fun. I didn't expect that much. That was a truckload to me.
It is. It's a 6-game slate, so I would expect it to be a little higher. But he ended up being literally one of the 3 or 4 chalky guys. It was him, Barkley. Who else was 30%? There was, Puka was like 38%. Like when it came to the 6-gamer, there was like 3 or 4 guys, like everyone had at least 2 or 3 of them in their lineup. And it was guys like Barkley and Puka who had super high ceiling. It was guys like McMillan who had ceiling at a good value.
See, Donnie pays attention to more statistics than I do too. He values it more. So maybe you guys would know. Like to me, it was just like, did all the people decide like this is my value guy? Like I was surprised because if I was going to predict an ownership, I would have thought, well, it's going to be a superstar like a Nico Collins or someone like that. You know, someone that's just going to get a ton of volume or even like a Justin Jefferson. I just didn't expect it to be McMillan.
When you're consistently getting 5, 6 targets, and he's a deep shot, so like
yeah,
you're
and
getting
you got to realize
upside.
And numbers wise, with the projection, like he's the number 2 wide receiver on what was like the highest total game.
It's true. They were
in one of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL.
So like,
true.
And he was cheaper than all the other guys in that. Like all the other like number 2 or number 1s were like Cooper Kupp, Jordan Addison, and those guys were all more expensive than McMillan in less total games. So it's like McMillan was going to look good in projections as like that mid-range. Okay, this is the guy at 5K that just makes stuff fit because he's just as good as all these 6K guys.
And see, your reasoning made perfect sense now that I've had it explained to me. That shows you that I'm just not a projections guy. Like, because now that you lay out the numbers, it makes sense. I just would have never thought that, you know. This
lineup that cashed was my core.
Yeah, it was. And I thought
you guys put some good stuff around my core because Bo Nix and Sutton and Bucky did not do amazing. Bucky was the chalk of the fucking everyone played Bucky.
Ladd was just my favorite play. Like I just loved playing Ladd this week.
And a lot of people liked doing that. As you can see with 22%. He wasn't like the chalk, but he was like the next person you put in when you weren't putting in Barkley or McMillan or Bucky.
And I don't remember whose pick it was on Ladd, but I definitely agreed with it. And I love that you forced Bo Nix because I wasn't going to play him. And the only reason I didn't play more
Bo Nix, Sutton, and Bucky was my core. So everyone else was put in by you guys.
Right. But the only reason
I assume you put in Goddard and Mechie.
Yeah, those are definitely mine. So Ladd must have been Donnie's. But my point was I would have played more Ladd, but I didn't feel comfortable about Justin. But once you forced in Nix, I'm like, this actually makes some sense because Nix being a rushing quarterback, I'm like, he doesn't really need a bring back. We could get in there. I think, you know, you ended up putting something in him, but I'm like, this made sense to play Ladd because we actually had the money for it. And it ended up being probably the reason it cashed mainly. And then Donnie, you were on the Rams game, and it just made sense to play Kyron because, you know, Cooper didn't really make sense. We couldn't get to Puka very easily, so Kyron just made like this lineup did speak to a lot of our player pool. I was most proud of this one, obviously.
Yeah, this lineup looked solid. Like our 2 snowflakes were Sutton because Bo Nix didn't really have the game I was expecting. I thought he'd keep up. Like this is what people were telling me. It's just going to be 31-7. I'm like, no, it'll be like 31-21.
And maybe we got lucky on defense. Like defense is variant, right?
But true, but I had locked the Texans defense. They looked like my favorite cheap defense of the week. I'm just glad they went off. But to be fair, you could play them or the Rams, which were $100 more, and had the same. It was the same score.
But that's why I will give us credit for playing the Texans from a strategic standpoint. Is it made sense? We faded Justin in this lineup. We faded him, you know, in the entire slate. We didn't have a lot of any Charger, and so this made sense because, you know, just logically the best defense to play given the structure.
Yeah, I got very lucky. Both the defenses I played, like truly, I consider this lucky. Granted, I like the defenses, and I hated the offenses they were up. Well, not I like the Chargers.
I was going to say, I know you played the Rams defense.
I played the Rams and the Texans defense. That like.
They were very cheap. They were good in the right same price range. Like they helped you put builds in. It was
your lineup still, right, Donnie? This is your lineup still.
Yes.
So you didn't, but that's my point. Is the only Viking you played was TJ, so it made some sense. You know, it wasn't like you went heavy Vikings and then.
I never would have done that. I was
You
on
like
this. I
you
was
really
on the.
did Giga stack that game though,
Yeah,
and then just added in Likely and McConkey and Henry.
I was on this. I cannot stand Sam Darnold. He is not that good. It will eventually crash down. For this whole season, I'm sure I said a million times in the show that I do not trust this Vikings team. They're gonna fail eventually, and damn it, they did it again. 4 times against 2 teams.
I said it was his. Donnie and me were watching portions of this game live, and I said it was his worst performance just because it was the moment. Like, he was this matured quarterback who went through all of these trials and tribulations, and like this was his crowning moment. You know, his Kirk Cousins moment, if you will, like where other teams had given up on him, and he was too young for the moment before, and like, but he had talent, and like this was his.
I actually think the Week 18 game was a bigger like blemish to him.
It might have been, but I'm saying like he had kind of that Matthew Stafford like moxie about him. It's like he's coming to a new team. You know, he's finally matured and aged enough where he's ready to explode. And I thought this was his worst performance, mentally, emotionally, like physically. It looked like physically he made some bad mistakes, and then just emotionally gave up on the team. I don't know. It looked bad.
The offensive line was so putrid, though. Like, I feel like if you're not like one of the guys at quarterback,
like the Rams never had like a great pass rush all year, and they were able to disrupt stuff with a 4-man rush. Like it was not good.
I mean, and then we got to the end of the game where it's like, and I know it was said on the broadcast, and it's just so true, where it felt like the Vikings didn't even care that they were down by 18 in the early 4th. Like to just roll over and give up and not hurry up, and it's disgusting to watch, honestly, because you should still be, especially when you know this is Darnold's last snaps as a Viking. I'd be shocked if it isn't his last snaps as a Viking anyway. I don't understand what the idea was at the end of that game, but Darnold was put in a bad position there. They need to be better. Justin Jefferson, you're supposed to be the best receiver in football. You need to get yourself open. Like, just blatantly, there's no corner on that team that should be able to stop the best receiver in football, theoretically. And they stopped you with every single corner on their roster, pretty much.
I'm truly okay with the defense that, you know, people have been playing on Justin. They've been giving him number one, you know, superstar treatment. Like, the Lions were able to like really bracket him and put their main focus on him. You know, we saw it in this game as well. I am disappointed on how Justin has reacted to it. He almost blamed the referees. He almost like nonchalantly kind of like passed it off as like, oh, well, I'll get better when this team gets better, that kind of mentality. I would just hope for more leadership because I'm a Justin fan. Like, I think of all the wide receivers, I played Justin probably the most this season out of all the superstars. So I want to believe in the talent. I think maturity is there. It's just he disappointed me this year with how he ended the year.
I could get past the, you know, stats not being there, but in the playoffs and against the Lions, week 18, week 19, whatever you want to call it, wildcard weekend, you have to show up. You're the best receiver in football, or supposed to be. I still will call him that because I love the talent, and honestly, I think you are limited with Sam Darnold as your quarterback. But
I was about to say, and when like you're limited with Sam Darnold as your quarterback, and when Sam Darnold was getting sacked 9 times, and really that meant he was with the interception and the fumble, like he was pressured more than that. Like, Sam Darnold was running for his life the whole game, and he's not the kind of quarterback that under pressure.
He's always held the ball too much anyway. But
right.
But this wasn't even that fault. Like, I watched that game. Like, this wasn't even that fault. He wasn't holding the ball too long. He automatically had pressure in his face, even with a 4-man rush, like every play.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, that Vikings offensive line, it was terrible.
Like that team that had been decent all year and allowed him to function completely fell apart around him, and he is not the guy that's not going to just fold in the middle of it. I agree. Like, it was much more of a team thing than a Darnold thing, but this is what you get with Sam Darnold. He's not going to be able to propel you when your team isn't playing well.
So because this lineup had our biggest success, let's do a little bit of victory lapping and some transparency to wrap up the show here. Is there anything that you think we did wrong necessarily? Anything we did specifically right that really set us apart? Any like closing thoughts on this lineup?
I mean, I guess the worst thing in this lineup is like Dobbs gets injured. Okay, cool.
That's just unfortunate, right?
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Had him at a great percentage.
Sutton, the offense doesn't score, so he doesn't get the touchdown. But technically speaking, he got the stats.
Really go up. Yeah,
I thought that was the best snowflake we could have had in this lineup. Like he had all the volume, his team just didn't get there. To your point, and we got
He worked as a cheap guy.
Yeah, we got very unlucky with Dobbs.
I think the big thing for me in this lineup would be, okay, well, I don't
Dobbs
love
and
the
Sutton
ownership
needed
of
to
Bucky.
be Dobbs and Sutton needed to be Troy Franklin and then like another different payout, maybe an Evans or something. Or
I just Bucky ownership is like the one thing where it's like if we knew going in, would we have played a 57% Bucky?
I would have.
Okay,
I just knew I needed to get different around it. That is one of the reasons why I had my core of Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton, two guys I knew would be sub 10%. What's his core? The chalkiest guy on the slate that I wanted to play.
I'm okay with you pushing against it, even Donnie.
I don't have a problem with it, but like that's the worst thing in this lineup, I guess we could say. Like,
yeah,
and I don't think that this is just a good lineup.
I think that's why I was surprised with the McMillan ownership because I thought Bucky was going to be 20% more. I really did. I thought he'd be like 65%. I thought 50 was actually too low for him, given his price.
Other than that, like, is there anything specifically game-wise we want to talk about? Obviously all the games sucked. Tampa and Washington was the only good one, and it just showed us Jaden Daniels
came down to the wire. Yeah,
Jaden Daniels is just really awesome. Like,
you want to make fun of that a tweet I saw?
Yeah, go ahead.
From Robert Griffin III.
Oh, of all guys.
He said, "Congratulations on the new generation of quarterbacks. It's officially changed. Mobile quarterback is the way. Now that there are 7 mobile quarterbacks in the divisional round."
I'm not even a Michael Vick guy, but come on, like that was a true change. Like he was
okay. No, but just think about it. What 7 quarterbacks are mobile quarterbacks of the 8 in the divisional round? Because I have 4.
Yeah, that
is a stretch. Like just because you have the ability to
you
run,
have
does not
to
make you
say one of Stafford or Goff is a mobile quarterback in
I was gonna say,
yeah, that's crazy. Like if we stretch and Stroud isn't super mobile.
Yeah, I don't have Stroud as mobile.
I don't consider Mahomes mobile. He just is.
Mahomes is kind of mobile because he will scramble off to the sideline every once in a while. He does get out of the pocket on his throws. Like that's part of Andy Reid's offense is getting him out of the pocket, doing some bootlegs.
I'd imagine like that's like saying that Goff is mobile because he's always
like Lamar, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels. I get all 4 of those are at least automatic. I understand.
Even Russ, you could say like, oh, he's aged, but
I'm not even. They weren't even counting Russ. He's just counting the ones that are still in it now.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
final 8.
That's what I'm saying. Even if you include the guys,
he's just automatically including Stroud. Automatically including Mahomes, automatically including one of Goff or Stafford.
See, that's the mistake. I'm saying, like, even if you included like a Bo Nix or a Russell, like that's still a stretch to me. To consider Jared Goff, like that's just.
I do think like you need to be able to move. You need a quarterback
that
can take advantage of that 10 to 15 yard. I think he means Stafford is the mobile one.
There's no way.
He's seen Stafford like run a whole bunch just because it was nasty. And then Goff is just more mobile.
Goff is always moving in play action, so I'd imagine it has to be Goff he's talking about.
I think he made a mistake is what actually happened, and he wanted to sound clever and intelligent and like plugged in, and he tried to plug in too many wires, and the TV didn't work. That's what honestly.
Now, I halfway agree with him. I think it is moving that way. I think quarterbacks need to be able to take advantage of that 5 to 10 yards that they can get up the middle when
I don't even think
it's in a certain way.
But it's definitely much more relevant now. Like it's very
like if you don't have that mobility, like there were older quarterbacks who could shuffle in the pocket really well.
Yeah.
But like that, we would have never called them mobile. But they
Baker's
easily,
kinda like that.
instead of shuffling the pocket, could have grabbed 5 yards.
Right. Baker's kind of like that. If you need 5 yards,
Exactly.
he'll do it.
Baker, hey, he'll take a hit for you too, man.
That's what I mean. Like I think Baker and Stafford have that kind of tenacity. Like I call them mobile? No. Could I expect them to run for 5 yards here or there when they need to? Yes. But I wouldn't call them mobile.
So
that's sort of how I feel with Mahomes. I'm not sure if Mahomes is mobile, but I have always, it seems like in every playoff game or in every little situation, part of his offense is like get outside, and then he'll run for 10 yards and just get that first down real quick.
Yeah.
Has no problem doing that off to the sideline.
But he's not especially quick. He's just like, he gets a lot of room because everyone's running backwards because you have to worry about the arm.
You don't have to be especially quick. Like Cam Newton was a mobile quarterback, but he was more run through a motherfucker's
Cam
face.
Newton couldn't throw, so you know.
Well, neither can Lamar or Jalen Hurts.
No, we're not. I'm not doing this Lamar slander. I'm not taking the bait. I'm not taking the bait.
We might do it this weekend for the Lineup Builder Show, which I will say promotionally, we are still going to do a Lineup Builder Show just quickly as we kind of promote this for the people. You guys like the structure that we had, right? Where we picked our core and then we.
I like the cores for the playoffs.
Yeah, I can deal with that. Yeah, for the playoffs, we can do the core. We'll build 3 lineups real quick. Since we're not doing our spread pick, we can get that time for the extra lineup. It's easy.
Yeah. And I think like having the core, you already have a couple picks already, kind of locked in, so it makes building a little quicker as well. I liked it a lot. So join us for that show. We'll figure out if it's going to be Friday or Saturday. We still got to work.
It'll be Friday.
Friday's
it probably needs to be Friday anyway.
Friday
afternoon, most likely.
Friday afternoon, maybe. I know I have work Friday night, so
that's what I'm saying. We got to try to figure it out with the NFL.
If it has to be Saturday, it'll be Saturday, but we'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. With that being said, we should do the results. Hopefully, you guys have the bankroll to keep playing in the playoffs. There's few shows that are just shut down completely. So if you want to shut down and enjoy the best ball streets of the playoffs, if you want to just do side bets, that's fun. But we're going to bring a Lineup Builder Show. I think there's still some very valuable contests out there and still ways to have fun, but make sure you do so responsibly. With that being said, though, good night, guys. Take care. See you soon.
Peace out, everyone.